Guys, so this is going to be a well overdue video. So how I'm going to do this, we're going to start from the very beginning, from childhood, and I'm just going to talk about my history with like religion and stuff. But this is kind of like two testimonies in one, because I didn't struggle with just one thing, it was like two things, which so technically the second thing I was roped into anyway. But anyway, so I'm going to start off. So our family aren't that religious now. Now it's kind of like a different story. My mum started to go back to church and stuff. But how it was is my dad's Catholic. I will say it like that because he's doing stuff which isn't even. Basically, it's worrying and yeah, anyway. We're not even going to get into that, but okay, so that. And then my mum was, I believe, Orthodox, maybe. I always thought she was Pentecostal, but she's not Pentecostal. She was Orthodox. She goes to a Pentecostal church now. I think it's Orthodox. I may be completely wrong, but anyway. So we didn't really like go to church or anything like that. My only kind of history when it comes to like religion and Jesus and stuff was through Catholic. So I went to a Catholic school, went to a Catholic secondary school. I went through the whole kind of like confirmation thing. If you didn't know, it's a whole thing basically in the Catholic thing where before you can actually drink the bread, eat the bread and wine in Holy Communion, you have to go through this course. I will say this, it's insane to think what Catholics actually do in their doctrine compared to any other doctrine. It's insane looking back to it and thinking, and obviously now going to Pentecostal, and it's just wild. Like it's totally different, and yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into the doctrine of Catholicism and whether you should do it or not or whatever. This is my testimony, but that's kind of what I feel now. Like how crazy it is, like the things that they say, and it's not even biblical. It's crazy. Anyway, so that is kind of my kind of history with it. I was never into like Christianity. It was kind of more like a forced thing. I remember like RA I really disliked, which stands for religious education. If you didn't know, if you're not from the UK, I remember having a teacher that just made me fall asleep. The only thing I remember, honestly, from these classes is the fact that I can't draw people. I'm really bad at it, and I just remember when we had to draw these characters, and the person who usually sits next to me used to take the mic because I can't remember what he used to say. They look like deformed dwarfs or something. Which I wasn't offended or anything because I can't draw people. I think it's 100% true. Anyway, but that's the only thing I would remember. I wasn't really into religion, so my kind of like issue, well, not really an issue, but my kind of thing around it is I used to be like on and off. It was more so hope. Like it was more so, oh, I used to think, oh, he didn't exist because if there was a god, then bad things wouldn't happen. Like these things, like awful things would not be happening. Bearing in mind, I didn't know the full story of the Bible at this point. As I said, I didn't in maths. I didn't take anything in. And when we had maths at school, I just RE classes. I never took any of it in. But for me, it was kind of like, oh, if he is true, then why are bad things basically happening in the world? Like, why would he allow this to happen? Sort of thing. And then sometimes I'd be like, oh no, wait, what if he is? Like, I used to be kind of one of those people that were kind of on the fence, but you don't want to be on the fence because God doesn't like you when you're on the fence. You're either in or you're out. If you're on the fence, then yeah, just I think it's strict scripture in Revelations, but no, he needs to be in or out because he does not like lukewarm people. And like I'm the sort of person, even though I wasn't necessarily sure if God was real or not, um, I didn't like to be offensive, and that included offensive to all religion now because I used to think, well, it's kind of the same God. Obviously it's not the same God. The God of Quran is not the same as Lord our God, completely different, but I used to think that way. So I used to not like, even though I felt that probably didn't exist. I wanted to be kind of on the safe side in case that he was, so I didn't like want to be like offensive and stuff. And I remember when we first started secondary school, they gave us like a Bible, like a small Bible. I think it was just the New Testament. I remember the kids saying, because at that time, I don't know if it still happens now, to get in a Catholic school, kids have to be baptized, and this is a whole thing where baptism and the whole Catholic thing and baptism when you're babies and stuff. Anyway, so there was an epidemic of parents that weren't even religious getting their kids baptized so they could go in Catholic school, because it was one of those things where Catholic schools were better than like all the other schools. So I remember when we all got Bibles, and a few were like, you know what, when I get home I'm going to rip it up. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to rip it up. But inside I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that in case there is a God. I am not about to, I'm not about to kind of, So I was that kind of thing. So I wasn't, I was kind of like on and off. There was a time in my period where a friend did introduce me to church. It was more of a casual thing. She would go there casually, like she'll only go there for the singing and stuff, and she would leave. And but I remember when I went with her one time, and I was like, she wanted to leave because again she only came for the singing and stuff. But as soon as the preacher started talking, I was like, no, we are staying. I am sitting through this. And then after that, I went a few times, but then I stopped. Then flash forward quite a few years later, this movie comes out called God's Not Dead. By the way, if you've not seen this film, you should see it. They've got quite a few movies that came out, but this was the one that hit the cinema. And I don't know what it was, but I think it's the whole premise and stuff. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go watch this film. So I went to cinema and watched it, and I was like, yo, God's alive, God's alive. And I was literally like that for a week. And then again, I started going to church, and then I just stopped. Don't ask me why I stopped, but I just stopped. So that's kind of like my history until we get to here. So so all through my years I have suffered with like mental health. Now because of YouTube and words, there's certain words I'm not going to be able to say. Usually I'm not too bothered, but I do want this video to be shared with as many people as possible, and when you use certain words YouTube doesn't like it, they don't like to share the video. So it was just low moods, basically depression. And I did get to this stage where I was on and off when it came to SH. Yeah, you probably can guess, but I was on and off with SH. I do remember a time where I did plan at the S, but for whatever reason, I think the situation that happened with there, I ended up basically, I was staying at a friend's, and that friend basically, with his harassment, is that word harassment, I can't, I try and say big words and I can't say it, but basically with his personality, he kind of pulled me out of it without me even saying. But it was the first time where I proper was like, I'm gonna do it. But in the end, I didn't do it. The more I think about that situation, is God tends to use people, like he'll use people that aren't even religious sometimes without them knowing it. So maybe that was his kind of divine intervention. I have no idea. But as I said, I was struggling, and for the past few years it would just get worse and worse and worse and worse. Where I just felt like so low. I just didn't like it was like on and off, but at this point it was just building up. And there was a moment where I was like, in my head I was like, just go back to church again, just go back to church. I don't know where that thought came from. Obviously in this journey, I know now God can talk to you through thoughts, so I don't know if that was God telling me to go to church, but it was like, go to church. So that's how that happened, where I started, where I went the first time I went to the church. So this church that I go to now has changed completely different. So all the times I've been to church, it was this church, and they do like a home church thing. So the Sunday I went in, it was a home church, but they do have a home church in the actual church. So it was like, okay, cool. So I listened and everything, and I came in next Sunday. And what's so great about this church is that they whenever a newcomer comes to this church, so this is New Life in Derby, they make an effort to kind of like it's like they welcome you in like really well. Like at the end of like every kind of thing, they ask if anyone's new, and they literally have a meeting, and it's not like obviously like a formal meeting, but they want to get to know you and stuff like that. And then on that Sunday, I remember one of the pastors, obviously at this time I knew about home church, but yeah, we were talking and everything, and he runs a home church and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, at the moment, the thought of a home church, I don't know why it came into like, I think it's just because the amount of movies I've watched, but usually when you think of a group of people in a church, in a home, talking about God and stuff, you think that's a little bit cultish, right? That sounds so bad. So I was a bit like iffy and stuff, but I did go in the end because I was invited. Why not? It's probably not as bad as I think it was, and it wasn't as bad as I think it was. And the real turning point was the fact that when they all prayed for me. So if you don't know anything about like the Christian religion and stuff, the true religion, basically what can happen is God can send people visions. So while they were praying for me, like all of them was like the same sort of vision of me being in this like pit and trying to get out, and there's me just sat there like just shocked, like how are they knowing this? And obviously they were like the pastor leader was like, okay, obviously he didn't push me to say it, but I just said it. Bear in mind, I don't open up to anyone usually. That's my biggest like weakness. I don't like opening up to people. But that day I just told them everything at that point. So we did this kind of prayer. I can't remember what the prayer is actually called, but um during that time it was during this prayer, it was just the weirdest feeling ever. Like it was the Holy Spirit at this time now knowing like the Holy Spirit literally just touched me and just released every kind of like bond that was attached to me, every feeling of loneliness and everything like that. And I just felt this joy that I've not felt in so many years. I can't explain what kind of joy it was, but it was a joy that I haven't felt in so many years. It's just, yeah, again, I can't really, I'm really bad at explaining it. And then since then, I've just been, like, obviously just, praying and everything like that. So that's, like, my journey through that kind of testimony. Um, so the second part, so you've probably all kind of heard of the LGBTQ community, which, oh, I've learnt so much on this journey that it's the biggest lie ever. Anyway, and I, during this time and everything, was so confused about my sexuality. Like, it was like, am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I, like, I ended up labeling myself as bi-gender, and I was going to start using the pronouns him and her, but I didn't get around to doing this. And so there's that. So I was so confused. Like, one minute I was like, I want to be a man. Next minute I'm like, no, I want to be able to switch over. That's why I was like, maybe I'm just bi gender. Anyway, so once that's happened and everything, like as I said, I accepted Jesus, and this is the one thing that God showed me. And I remember arguing with myself about this verse. So if you saw my first video, so basically I'm posting this on both of my channels. So if you saw my first video on the Jesus Loves You channel, you'll know I mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it again because it's part of my testimony. But this is the one thing. So out of curiosity, so the Bible, was it the Bible? No, it was the First Steps book. At the end of it, it's got like verses and stuff like for like depression and stuff like that. And I thought, out of curiosity, I look at I can't remember what it was labelled, but probably like homosexuality or something like that. So first off, okay, LGBTQ are liars. It's in there multiple times in the Bible that you shouldn't be having sex with the same sex. That was kind of annoying. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. But so this verse came up this is in Deuteronomy. If it was right. So this is verse 5, chapter 22, and it says, "A woman shall not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all who do so are in abomination to the Lord your God. Now, in context to this, and all the other, and the letter to Corinthians, it was kind of a thing that we were doing that was kind of appeasing other gods. I'm not going to get into it in this detail, but I remember when I was searching up and stuff, and it was like all the LGBT community was saying, oh, the people are taken out of context, it was only in that time, that sort of thing, they're twisting stuff around. And then so I was like, oh, maybe not, but this thing still kept in my head, and I realized something, why he was showing me this. So I cosplay, and a lot of the characters I cosplay are male, and this is how it ended up going down, this LGBTQ where I'll dress up as this male character and I'll be enjoying it a little bit too much. But even like outside of cosplay, I will dress quite tomboyish, and I'd have tomboyish haircuts, and like anytime somebody would think I was male, it would actually fill me with happiness. So yeah, that's another thing as well. But he was showing me this because it's not helping. What you're doing is a sin in starters when you're calling yourself by gender, because you're not, you're female, and you're not a him or her, you're a her. And the fact that, you know, me cosplaying as a male is not helping the situation. It's like, for example, if you've got a porn addiction and you limit yourself to watching porn like once a week, that's not gonna, you know what I mean, that's not gonna help the situation. You need to cut it out straight away. So I feel that that's what that was God that was literally telling me that. So there's that. Also, a weird things that were happening. So God likes to talk to me through social media sometimes. So sometimes I'll pray, and then I'll hear like answers on my Instagram feed. But what happened was I would get a lot of like at the time I would consider it as homophobic. Obviously now I don't consider it as homophobic. It's the truth. What they're doing is not biblical. And it was so weird because I never used to search this on YouTube, but all these videos were on YouTube Shorts, and I was like, what? What? Like, I was getting frustrated. Like, I get it. But God was like, I think it was God saying, I don't think you get it, so I'm going to keep showing you these videos until you 100% get it. But that was like a weird situation, because it was like, okay, is this literally the God showing me and stuff? But yeah, out of all the things, guys, LGBTQ, like I've really learned recently, like they've literally got their own Bible. So hear me out. If you have to quote verses in a Bible that relate to your sin, then you're doing something wrong. Clearly, I don't know, but obviously when it comes to LGBT community, all you have to do is pray for them, because it's just whole like hypnotized into them believing, and they're all, it's kind of like they're like it's like being under a spell basically, that needs to be broken. But yeah, that is basically my my testimony. Obviously now I still struggle with like depression and low thoughts, but now I know that I have Jesus, and Jesus can help me through all these situations and times where I am feeling low and stuff like that. So there's that. What I want to do is link a video, because the video made so much sense, which I actually found on my new stream. It's called something Ministries. I think it's down below, but they made a good point as to when we get suicidal thoughts, because you know suicide thoughts are from the enemy, because we eat and drink to stay alive. Like, our body tells us when we're hungry, our body tells them to be thirsty, because that's how, you know, our body is made basically to survive. So why would then suddenly your body decide, yeah, I don't want to survive, I want to die? Like, it contradicts the whole mechanism of, you know, the human body and the mechanic. Again, someone stops trying to say words you can't say, but it disrupts the whole kind of thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I will link that video down below because it's actually a really helpful one. when it comes to being, so I forgot to mention as well as being like bi gender and stuff like that, I consider myself as being bisexual as well. So am I still attracted to the opposite sex? So at times temptation might come in and I'm about to say to myself, oh, that person looks great, but then I stop halfway through. I'm like, no. So I wasn't so into it to the point where it's a struggle to get out of it. I find it's quite easy to get out of it because I wasn't in it too deep. I don't know if that, again, if that's like God's doing or someone was praying for me and I didn't know. Because that's the kind of thing, if you pray for somebody, is basically, there's loads of testimonies you should listen to, but when you find out like people have been praying for you and it's like, oh well, this business doesn't work for this woman who, is it chakra, that weird thing, I don't know, chakra, something like that, and she realised that her friend was praying for her, that's why her business in that field didn't take off. So I don't know if that was the thing why I ended up not going too deep into it. But yeah, I don't, it's not something that I struggle with. I can easily just, if it comes, I can easily just cut off. But yeah, that is basically it for my testimony. So I hope this testimony helps somebody, and share it with anyone who you know who struggles with these kinds of things, that there is hope. Jesus is the hope. Jesus will rescue you from whatever troubles you are living in.